Class, your attention, please.
Your teacher has a rule. School is cool.
Class, quiet down. Attention, everybody. Class is in session. Welcome back to another edition of the Classic Match Classroom. I am your professor, Tyler Wolf. I am joined, as always, by the prodigy, Mr. Anthony Cerulli. Mr. Cerulli, how are you today?
Mr. Wolf, I am doing very well. Work and school getting hectic, so we're working around, and I'm glad that we are finally back together to do another one of these episodes, especially for this topic.
Absolutely, and the feedback has been great so far that I've been seeing. Thank you very much to Jimmy Corderas, who chimed in and left us a comment on the last on the Mega Powers episode. Lots of fun stuff with the Iron Sheik last week, and Mr. Slaughter as well. I'm having a blast doing this, man. What's your little reflection so far, 5 weeks in on this?
A little reflection. All I have to say is, I've said it from the first episode that this has got to be like the most fun that I've had doing a podcast, because you get to relive a lot of, for you relive, and then you get to learn about all these old matches and old feuds. But at the same time, we're booking on the fly, coming up with these unique ways of presenting this content. We're getting a lot of recognition at the same time with Jimmy Corderas and some great podcasters checking out our content. So at the end of the day, thank you all for doing your part and helping us grow. And I think we're only going to grow more as we continue to put in these lessons. Absolutely.
This podcast and my beloved Cincinnati Bengals have a lot in common right now. We are both winning, my friends.
Yes. Yes.
Very fun stuff, man. Okay, so let's get into business. Obviously, as you can see above, all of our social media tags, like us, subscribe. You can find everything at www.countedout7.com. Not counted out with Mike and Tyler, like I said last week on a.
Oh, I caught that when I was rewatching the episode.
I got heat from Mike on that. He's like, "You idiot." www.countedout7.com.
He puts too much time into this website for you to mess it up. God damn
it. That's right. I took some heat from that, but Mike has some very positive things to say about the show as well. And this week, we're getting down to the land of extreme, kind of, sort of. Are you ready to go to ECW?
ECW. Ring the bell, because class is in session.
And our class is going to start not really with an angle, but kind of with a moment. I didn't send you these individual moments because I did not want you to suffer through watching Savio Vega versus Mabel from King of the Ring 95, but that is where we are going to start. It is the finals of the King of the Ring tournament being held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And as Mabel is wowing the crowd versus Savio Vega, there's this chant, and it's not a quiet chant. It is a very loud chant that was picked up. And even the commentators kind of acknowledge it without acknowledging. They didn't say it was ECW, but the crowd's really getting into this. Like, very cool thing here for 1995. You gotta give ECW credit for having that kind of buzz in 1995.
Yeah, I mean, for some company like ECW, who are, as they've been mentioning, more of a local company in Philadelphia. This is something that, it's gaining a lot of steam. It's gaining a lot of traction. So to get such a large chant, especially during a WWF event, it's pretty impressive.
So I always like to ask you this every week as well. And before we get really deep into this, what do you know about the original ECW? Not the WWECW, but what are you, because you're the younger fan, so you totally missed ECW.
Yeah.
So what is the reputation that it has for somebody a little bit younger like yourself?
Most of where I knew about the original ECW was from the One Night Stand events, because I've seen One Night Stand 2005. I've seen most of 2006. And I kind of gained a lot of knowledge through that. Besides different moments of like you go on YouTube and you see ECW extreme moments and all that stuff. But yeah, I never really knew like how big of a presence it was, if it was a big presence in its entirety. I knew the names, but I didn't really know how they interacted with each other. And yeah, that's pretty much. I really learned about ECW through WWE's interpretation of ECW and how they tarnished it, years after. But still, that's kind of where I came from.
Okay, that's not bad actually. That's not bad. We're definitely going to talk a lot about ECW in future episodes as well, because there are so many legendary rivalries that are in ECW. But we're going to focus on this one right now with carrying on after June. We get to the Mind Games pay-per-view, and very kind of interesting way to shoot an angle here. They had the Sandman sitting in the front row with Tommy Dreamer and Paul Heyman, as Bradshaw and Savio Vega are fighting each other in a strap match. And the Sandman reaches over and spits beer all over these guys, starts smashing cans.
There's a local wrestling group here in Philadelphia, and obviously trying to make a name for themselves here at the expense of the World Wrestling Federation. And we will not shoot this ugly incident that is occurring.
What do you think about this little move here?
I thought it was cool. It was like the front row saw Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, and two little kids who were just scared shitless out of their minds. I would have just loved to be in the minds of those kids. Just like, what the hell are these two? Like, this guy banging a beer over his head, wearing these ECW shirts. It was a really cool visual. I will say that. Nothing that we've seen, I'm sure nothing that you've seen up until this point in wrestling, period. And nothing really that you've seen since. I can't really say the last time that I've seen a crazy invasion to this degree. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but I kind of wanted to ask a question to the professor.
Absolutely.
Like, actually, two questions. One, Lawler was saying on commentary that they were a local company in Philadelphia. Were they really like that small by this point? They just had like the cult fan base.
Absolutely.
Okay,
they had a good drawings in Philadelphia. Obviously, was their home base.
Okay.
And New York. They were very strong in New York as well. But they weren't touring like crazy at this point. They would do house shows in Florida. But for the most part, their big shows were in Philadelphia at the ECW arena, which you get referred to as a bingo hall a lot during this.
Yeah.
That's a shoot. That building was actually a bingo hall many nights throughout the week, and then it would turn into the ECW arena.
Oh my God. And then a follow-up, and I'm sure you were going to go into this regardless, but I'm so interested. How did this partnership come about between ECW and WWF? Because like, I've never seen a invasion to this extent. Again, I doubt we'll ever see it again, but like, how did this all happen?
Vince McMahon and Paul Heyman worked together for many, many, many years secretly. Vince was funding ECW under the table, which is so funny to think about, because ECW prided themselves on being anti-establishment. Forget about the WWF, forget about WCW, we're ECW. But here is Vince funding these guys. Now, why would Vince do something like that? Well, because when it came time for Vince to need new talent, and he's looking at ECW, Heyman could guide them towards the WWF instead of WCW. All right. In return, Heyman has his big pay-per-view, Barely Legal, coming out. And he's now being given a huge platform, the biggest platform that you can think of to promote this pay-per-view. Right. So Heyman's keeping his company afloat with Vince's money. Vince is getting talent, and Heyman's getting exposure on a national company. Like, that's a pretty good win-win-win for everybody.
It's a very good win-win-win. I had no idea that there was a partnership there, and it makes sense that you would want your talent going to ECW instead of WWF. That only strengthens WWF versus WCW. Wow, that is a game changer. I did not know that.
There's somebody else that didn't know that there was a partnership between WWF and ECW. and that was Gerald Briscoe.
Really?
Gerald Briscoe is legitimately one of the baddest, and I don't swear a lot on this show, but he deserves every accolade he gets. He is one of the baddest motherfuckers on the planet. He will mess you up. And Briscoe wasn't smartened up that the ECW guys were going to do this. Neither was Bradshaw. The only guy that got smartened up was Pritchard, Vince, and Savio Vega. Savio was told, do the spot in front of these guys and hold the Texan, because they knew Bradshaw would try to kill him. If you go back and watch this very closely, you can see Gerald Briscoe is getting ready to take down Tommy Dreamer and beat the living hell out of him.
That's
awesome. And apparently Pritchard grabbed him at the last second and was like, it's a work. Like that's what that's a story that Briscoe just told recently on his podcast, Stories of Briscoe and Bradshaw, when they had the Blue Meanie on.
Nice. But
something
awesome.
else that with the Blue Meanie told that I didn't know is that, and I believe Taz says this in the clip that's coming up as well, ECW hid guys throughout the crowd just in case the WWF sent their locker room out to shoot on them. So they had, like Perry Saturn, the Dudley Boys, Taz were all sitting within the arena just in case things got out of control.
Could you imagine getting a seat next to Bubba Ray Dudley just randomly at a WWF event?
I would not want to be beside Bubba Ray Dudley when he is in the mind frame of, I might have to go fight somebody, because that guy is terrifying.
Which is basically any time that you would ever be next to Bubba Ray Dudley.
Pretty much. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So that's our introduction to this angle here. The ECW guys have invaded the WWF TV. Jerry Lawler's had enough of it. And Jerry Lawler has really got a bone to pick with Paul Heyman for some reason. Do you know anything about the history of Jerry Lawler and Paul Heyman?
I don't. I didn't even know that they had history.
So we are going to rewind. I did not send you any of these clips. I wanted to catch you off guard on this one.
Oh, okay.
We are going to rewind all the way
back. Pop quiz,
back.
I guess.
Pop quiz is coming here. Extracurricular activity. We're going to rewind all the way back to the year 1987, possibly into 86 as well. Jerry Lawler runs his Memphis territory, right? Memphis Wrestling. He is the king for a reason. There's nobody more over in Memphis than Jerry Lawler. And he is engaged in a very heated feud with Paul Heyman, Austin Idol, and Wildfire Tommy Rich, which results into a cage match that these guys have. Lawler as a shoot, not in this cage match, but as a shoot, Heyman and Lawler just always rubbed each other the wrong way. And Lawler broke his jaw as a shoot. Like he stiffed him one and broke his jaw many years ago. But this cage match that happened, it was Lawler's hair. It was a hair versus hair match. And Tommy Rich hid underneath the ring for 8 hours before this event started and ran out. It was kind of like a Hell in a Cell without the roof, because you could have like the extended area around the ringside.
Oh, okay.
And Tommy Rich ran out and cost Jerry Lawler to lose this match. And they shaved his head in the middle of the Memphis Coliseum. People were rioting, Anthony. They were, and I'll send you the clip after. They were trying to climb the cage to get at Jerry Lawler.
And barber Ted Cortese, who is engaged to be here to shave the hair, is going about shaving the head of the legendary king of wrestling, Jerry Lawler. Cortese, the barber, being supervised by Austin Idol, while Paul Dangerly is collecting the hair in a bag.
They never mention this, but there is a history between Lawler and Heyman.
That's so crazy. I had no idea that any of this happened.
And to take it even a step further, many people credit Memphis wrestling with being the birthplace of hardcore wrestling. They had the Tupelo concession stand brawl. They always had fire. There was barbed wire in Memphis. Like, they were at the forefront of hardcore wrestling. Now, everyone says FMW is where ECW stole all their stuff from. Paul Heyman's a history buff. I definitely see a lot of Memphis in that ECW product as well.
Wow.
Right. So Jerry Lawler now is on commentary with this guy with an ECW sign behind him. and Lawler is just ruthless here.
I guarantee you, 99% of the people in the world have never heard of ECW. Let me tell you, no, just hang on a second. Did you ever see that movie Escape from New York? Yeah. Where Manhattan Island was turned into like a prison, a place for a bunch of thugs and misfits? Well, that's what ECW is. It's just a place where a bunch of misfits and a bunch of has-beens who couldn't make it in the WWF have migrated to. And it's up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and every week I'm sick and tired of idiots like this coming and waving signs in my face and waving them on this TV show.
And he said, come to Raw next week and find out what we're all about. I thought Jerry Lawler cut a great promo here.
Lawler is the perfect guy that they could have put in this story. There's no one else that could have pulled this off as well as Lawler. You have someone who is the king. You know, his whole gimmick is that he's the king. And now he's going up against this new generation of just like extreme wrestlers. It was like a match made in heaven. Perfect formula. Lawler was the perfect guy, and it shows with these promos that he's cutting on commentary and eventually going at Paul Heyman on the mic.
Yeah, and we didn't have to wait long for that, because later in the same episode of Raw, we got a phone call from an ECW representative.
Hello?
Unlike Vince McMahon, I don't need to hide behind representatives. This is the owner, operator, and executive producer of Extreme Championship Wrestling, King Paul E. Paul Heyman, dangerously, call me what you like, but see me next Monday at the Manhattan Center, along with all the athletes in Extreme Championship Wrestling, who, as uneducated as you may be, you claim never to have heard of.
As Paul Heyman quickly explains who he is as the owner and operator, he doesn't hide behind anything like Vince McMahon does. Immediate jab at Vince McMahon. He says that Lawler might not recognize the Lawler had the great line. Heyman accepts the invitation, and Lawler says, you might not recognize the Manhattan Center because it's an arena, not a bingo hall.
That was great. Good call.
I thought Lawler got the better of Heyman on that one for sure. And then it takes us, the very next week on Monday Night Raw, live from the Manhattan Center. This was a very famous Monday Night Raw in general, because not only did you have ECW on this show, but the Legion of Doom also made the return to the company on this show as well.
I heard that on commentary. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Paul Heyman shows up, and you gotta play the clip right here. Your challenge has been accepted.
Your challenge has been accepted! ECW is in the house!
Paulie! What did I tell you, McMahon, huh? Go ahead, you bunch of morons. And the King's answer has been challenged. There's no telling what we're going to see in the house. That's Paulie in there, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have all kind of action, no doubt about that.
ECW is in the house. I love when Heyman says that.
Up until this point, I knew that this whole feud was going to be brilliant. And I was so looking forward to going through like all the segments for this Raw, because ECW was all over this show. And I did want to just backtrack real quick to the exchange between Heyman and Lawler over the phone, because I just thought it was really funny that Lawler was calling him Paul E. And I think that's a trend throughout the feud, is that he calls him Paul E instead of Paul Heyman. Yeah. I just think it's like, it's like WWE fans calling AEW wrestlers by their WWE names. You know what I mean? Like, exactly, it's just it's that little just nod at him. Like, you're not Miro, you're fucking Rusev.
Yeah.
I just think
that's how Lawler would know him from that feud in Memphis.
Exactly. Oh, that is true too.
Right.
I think that gives it like a different twist now, is that there's the history. So maybe it's not really in that light, but I still like to think that it is. But I
never really thought about that.
I'm so ready to get into this Raw, because damn, it was interesting.
Well, we start off with Perry Saturn and John Kronos coming rushing the ring, and they hit the total elimination on a poor ring crew worker. That move is awesome.
Beautiful.
But the guy that took the move looks so scared and stupid because he was just standing there covering his face. Like
Like
he
this.
looked like an idiot. Like, come on, man. You're on Monday Night Raw. Clearly you're in the business at some capacity. Man up and take the move.
Yeah.
This is the biggest stage that you've been on. These guys need to get over. He looked like an idiot. I did
Yeah.
not like that at all.
At least the move was good. I think that's all that matters, was that they
Yeah,
pulled off that beautiful move.
That's true. That's true. How much do you think that Vince McMahon loves seeing the NWO made fun of with the BWO?
That's part of the reason why I thought like they were the first ones to come out there, was just not only to set, put the flag in of VCW, but also just do that just a little nod at NWO. That was good stuff.
Yeah, I loved Big Stevie Cool on the microphone here. Blue Meanie doing his terrible Razor Ramon impersonation. Nova hitting the air guitar with the Hogan thing. It is very apparent that Vince McMahon does not know anybody's name.
No.
Keeps calling Stevie Steve Richards, Stevie Ray. I don't know if it's just
Stevie Ray.
And then we get an appearance by your boy Nunzio, little Guido. I know you're a fan of his. And then you get Raven do his walkout. I just thought Raven looked so cool. Like he looked like something totally different than anything else that you were seeing on the WWF screen. And I found myself this was like one of my early introductions to ECW as well. So I remember watching this live and being like, I need to know more about this guy. Like he just looked like this psychotic badass. And then the last note I have on this point here before I want to hear your thoughts on this is I laughed so hard when Paul Heyman offered Vince McMahon a job if this WWF thing doesn't work out.
That was so good.
I thought that was
good.
a great line.
Hey, McMahon, I got to tell you something. You impress me as an announcer. If this WWF thing does not work out for you, we could actually give you a job in ECW.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I've seen some of your shows. You need an announcer.
This was literally the best way that they could have introduced ECW to the fans, because, like I mentioned, you have a nod to WCW, NWO. For people that aren't familiar with ECW, that at least draws them in if they're familiar with what's going on with the NWO, that they're kind of, making fun of them. So I like that a lot, that, BWO was the first thing you would see. I love Nunzio, Lil Guido. That's all. I was up until that point. I was like, all right, A+ feud right there, because we saw Nunzio.
Take it home. We're good here.
I need Nunzio, and I don't know if you saw NXT the other day, but Tony D'Angelo is my favorite gimmick.
I haven't seen him. You'll have to take a page out of my book and send me some stuff on this Tony D'Angelo thing.
I will send you some Tony D'Angelo, because oh my god, such great shit. But okay, anyways, Little Guido. That's the Italian we're talking about right now. So I was very happy to see a little Guido in there. I wrote in my notes, this is so cool because it was so different than everything we've been seeing up until this point. Even like the little details, like they were using the ECW nameplates instead of like the Raw nameplates.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just, really, like, even nowadays when you'll see like an NXT star come in on the main roster and you'll do like the NXT plates. Like I like little things like that because it shows like they're an outsider. Yeah. I I wrote Raven with question marks, and I was like, could you imagine if something like this happened in 2021? Like, could you just imagine if, let's say, GCW, because this is the only company that I could compare it to, really.
Yeah.
Could you imagine GCW? There was a match between, I don't know who some of the stars, Ricky, Shane Page, and who else is there? I was going to say Ricky, Shane Page, and someone else. And then Nick Gage walks out, and just stands.
Hits a pose.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, just mind-blowing stuff. And also I put that the Stevie kick was very clean, because it was very, very clean. I like that move a lot.
Stevie's one of those guys that doesn't get enough love in the business. He is super talented.
He's great.
Super talented.
Even on the mic, he just has that energy to him that I like a lot.
His heel run in the WWF was fantastic. WWE when he was with Victoria. I don't know if you got to see any of that stuff or not.
I'd have to go back and watch some of that.
And then they put him on Sunday Night Heat every week, so he started calling it Stevie Night Heat instead. It was just genius. I've always been a big fan of Stevie Richards.
Totally. Oh man, he was good in this segment. I like this a lot.
Yeah. then we go to the next match here. My personal favorite segment of this entire thing was Taz versus Mikey Whipwreck. Everything I just said about Raven, about how cool he looked, and I want to see more of this guy, times it by 1,000,000 for Taz. Like Taz came out, I thought he looked like the biggest star in ECW, but when I was watching him fight Mikey, I was thinking to myself, man, I want to see this guy fight WWF guys. Like this guy has my attention right away.
That's why I really enjoyed how they did this, in that I like that WWF is just letting ECW showcase themselves to the fullest potential. Like they're not watering them down at all. You know, it's straight up, they're invading and they're taking the TV time away from the WWF guys. But at the same time, like you said, I want to see some of these guys interact with each other. I would have loved to see Raven come out during the Farouk and Undertaker match that was happening later on that night, you know, and just stand there. You know, and we would never see that exchange, but still, just the thought of it gets you interested on that.
I mean, you got to see some weirdly bullshit interaction. This is my biggest pet peeve of all these segments. They would cut to WWF interviews the whole time.
I know, that was
Goldust, Farouk, The Undertaker. Like it was really weird seeing Goldust and The Undertaker, especially The Undertaker. I thought it was really weird seeing him cut a promo over the ECW match.
I wrote in my notes, they really made me not care about an Undertaker promo because it was happening during the finish of the match.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to listen to slow Mark Calloway speaking while Tommy Dreamer and Devon Dudley are in the ring? Like, come on now.
Like I said, Taz looked great though in this match.
He did.
Beautiful suplexes he was hitting. Mikey was the right guy in there because Mikey knows how to make guys look fantastic as well.
Yeah.
You can tell that Sabu was running late on a spot though, because like Taz is just kind of looking around like where the fuck is this guy, right? Sabu with the insanity, he's on top of the Monday Night Raw set, the R set. As he says himself, I didn't jump off the R, I fell. So he slipped and fell off the R, comes crashing down the second story onto Team Taz. And then it kind of falls apart a little bit. Taz and Mikey mistime their suplex onto Sabu.
Yeah.
Team Taz takes him away. And then the thing that I really liked, another person that showed up on this episode of Raw was Ken Shamrock. This was his first appearance before he got announced as the referee for WrestleMania 13. Mm-hmm. And Paul Heyman says that Taz has moves that even Ken Shamrock fears.
And, ooh! All right, what kind of suplex was that? That's a head and arm Tazplex. It's the one move in wrestling that even Ken Shamrock fears.
Okay. I wouldn't go so far as to say that.
Well, you wouldn't, but I would. The Kata Hajime, the Taz Mission, and Bill Alfonso is carrying the flag of Team Taz. Here is your winner, Taz.
So I thought Heyman really got Taz over here. I thought Taz came out looking the best out of everybody in ECW on this.
And of course, Vince has to protect his guys. Oh, I don't know about Ken Shamrock. Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, Lawler had some great line on Taz. I can't remember if it's here later on about this guy's so short that he something about an ant farm. Do you remember that line?
Oh, his second home would be an ant farm.
His second farm, yeah. Like Lawler was ruthless to all of these guys.
Paul and Jerry
way through.
Paul and Jerry were just going at each other like so fluently. Like it was like they planned every single line that they had. That's how like on point they were with each other. It was great.
Yeah, and that's just natural chemistry, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that is going to take us to the next match. We have Tommy Dreamer versus Devon Dudley, and I have a pop quiz for you.
Ooh, okay.
Let's see if you're paying attention or if you can remember this. Did you know that ECW had a pay-per-view coming up?
I did.
As you watch any of this. Let's see how good Paul Heyman's marketing was. What was the name of the pay-per-view and what was the date of the pay-per-view?
Okay. Well, the name was Barely Legal, 1997. I know that it was in... Fuck, do I know when it was in? Oh, my God.
Paul Heyman's hard sell was not good enough.
I don't think it... However, I will say, if I can make up and maybe get a few bonus points, half credit, the main event was Sabu versus Taz.
The main event was Sabu versus Taz. Absolutely. The date was April the 13th, 1997.
I was thinking like March 13th. I don't know why I was thinking that one.
That's not too far off. I'll give you half points on that one. I'll give you half points on that one. Let's go here. So these guys waste no time. This is where they get to see the ECW hardcore side of ECW, right? Yeah. Heyman and Lawler are getting really heated at this point, and Vince is trying to calm down. Why don't we just chill out? And Vince is an early candidate right now for an honor roll appearance, because he was fantastic during these little segments here. Personally, for myself, though, as I watch all these segments, I think I would have ended with the Taz and Mikey Whip match over this. I think that would have been a better last match, with the chaos of Sabu running out. And then I just think because Taz was a little bit more of a badass character, that he would have been out there trying to fight Lawler as well. That was just me being a little bit picky, though. Yeah. Heyman has finally had enough of Lawler. He thanks Vince McMahon very much. As the Sandman has done his run out now, the Dudley boys have run out. The Undertaker's cutting a promo over the finish. This is very hectic, very pandemonium. It was a little bit sloppy as far as I'm concerned. And then, Paul Heyman, thank you very much, Vince McMahon, boom, tries to attack Jerry Lawler. and we cut the commercial with all the ECW people trying to fight Jerry Lawler. I thought the visually, and how awesome was it to see Vince McMahon like in the middle, like he was right in there.
It was even better to see Lawler getting up on the table, and you could see him trying to get to Heyman.
and Vince is just stuck. Like it's so funny to see Vince McMahon getting pushed around by like Taz and these ECW guys that you wouldn't think that Vince would be roughing it up with. And
even the same with the last week with Slaughter and Sheik, that he was getting in the middle of those guys in the backstage brawl. It's always fun to see him in the middle of that.
Early Vince is fantastic.
Yes, definitely.
So that's our Monday Night Raw. Do you think that this is a success overall?
I had a question for the professor, because was Raw an hour or 2 hours by this
2
point?
hours at this point.
Okay, because I was going to say, if they put all this in 1 hour, I don't know if he would have time for a Farouk and Undertaker match, but yeah.
And at this point too, the WWF is on full build to WrestleMania 13, right?
Okay, cool. Okay,
so sure I've covered a lot of WWF 1997. Seems like we got the beginning part done. We're in the middle right now. I don't know. Maybe we'll cover the end of it by the end of the month. I don't know.
Maybe we'll see. Until then, I think until then, I think the rest of the classroom can actually go back into the archives and check out the build to Austin Brett 97 to WrestleMania 13, which was actually our second episode of the 5 that we've already posted. You can check out all in our exclusive archived library.
Absolutely, and a fantastic job you do with that, might I say.
Thank you very much.
So now that we're done putting, let's hear your take on this. Now that we're done putting ourselves over here,
you always have to put ourselves over just a little bit.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, of course. But however, I will say, this was like, I never watched like the entirety of the Raw. I want to go back and just like see how everything worked with like, the Undertaker match. And I think there was even like an arm wrestling contest with Sonny and Marlena, and even Road Warriors coming back. So I kind of want to see how all this plays out. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to check out the full episode. But
this was a great episode of Monday Night Raw.
It sounds really like it. It sounds like a really like just fast. Like it. How do you find the way to just pack so much into 2 hours? You know what I mean? Like there's.
The pacing was really good.
Yeah. I mean, even when it was hectic, like you still kept fans engaged. I think a fast pace works in this environment because you're like, what the hell is going on? You have a company based out of Philadelphia who's local coming in and taking over the top wrestling company in the world. You kind of have to be fast paced with everything, with Raven showing up, the Dudleys and Sandman. You get an Extreme Rules, not Extreme Rules match. I'm thinking in WWE logic today. And what do they call it? ECW hardcore rules?
Hardcore, just hardcore. It was just a match in ECW. There were no rules in ECW.
Exactly.
Right? They picked the right building to do this in because ECW did run out of the Manhattan Center a lot.
Yeah,
so the fan base was already there. Their fans showed up to support them, that's a theme in ECW. Their fans are what made that promotion, right?
Yeah, definitely. But perfect way to start off this feud.
All right, well, we're going to keep rolling with it now. We have the Jerry Lawler and Paul Heyman debate. I was not a big fan of this segment.
Really?
Yeah, to me, Jerry Lawler is already kind of getting repetitive.
Okay, true.
I a lot of the comments are the same. I thought Paul Heyman's promo at the very beginning was absolutely fantastic, though. Telling him to shut up.
Keep talking.
That's all you need to do.
Mr. Lawler, now it is his turn. Back to the WWF. Put 22,000 people in the seats. It's not a testament to anything that you've ever accomplished in your whole stinking life. The fact that we earned the respect of every single one of those 1,100 people by bleeding, by sweating, by fighting, by taking each other down and showing these people that we will bust our ass to give them their money's worth.
But overall, yeah, I just think it went on way too long. And I really thought that the ECW guys looked Bush League here. Tommy Dreamer, you're telling me that Paul Heyman can hold you back from ripping Jerry Lawler apart? I thought he looked absolutely terrible doing that. The Sandman came across looking like an idiot. And I thought the WWF looked really weak for not coming out to get rid of the ECW guys. I get the story they're trying to tell. Jerry Lawler has no friends, right? But this should be a company pride thing at this point, not a Jerry Lawler thing. So I really just thought that this was a fail on all cylinders. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree. Well, first of all, Paul is just great on the mic. I love the line, the Howard Stern of wrestling.
Yeah,
because Howard Stern is my favorite, radio show. I listen to it every week, and I go back and watch a lot of the archives. And the comparison of, Howard Stern always called himself the king of all media, and he was just that edgy radio host that you had never heard up until that point. It was just something different. And I think Paul just hit the nail right on the head, that ECW is just something different, something edgy. So to call himself the Howard Stern of wrestling was just really perfect there.
And Howard put out a great movie. Private Parts is a hilarious movie.
I need to go and watch that movie, because he always plugs it on his show.
I don't know how well it will hold up all these years later, but young Professor really enjoyed it back in the day.
I also really liked, you make a good point about the repetitiveness with Lawler, and that becomes a trend kind of throughout this feud. But I will say that this was a little different in that I think this is the most passionate heel promo that I've ever heard from Jerry Lawler. Like, I had always just seen the Doink the Clown promos and everything with Brett, and he was very just, cocky, coward heel. You know what I mean? So to see this, he was really passionate here, and they were really shooting at each other. They were really going at it. So I really liked this promo. I thought it was a good way to keep things going. And by this point, it was a really just phenomenal feud in its entirety.
Yeah, I think for me, it went a little too long. I think it dragged, and Tommy Dreamer, come on, man. Come on, man. I'm a huge Tommy Dreamer fan, so I'm not trying to talk disparaging about the guy, but you could push Paul Heyman out of the way if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And he looked like he wanted to get at Lawler. That's the part that bothered me the most. It took me right out of it. I think it made ECW lose all credibility to me in this angle. Not this angle, this part of the angle, I should say.
Right.
Something that brought me right back into it was this next thing, though. The birth of Mr. Monday Night, Rob Van Dam.
I was the only man that had the guts to tell you idiots the truth about ECW, how much it stinks up until now. Now I've found another man who has actually been in the ECW, and you have come to find out, Rob Van Dam, exactly how low, how cheap, how rotten the ECW is. Is that right?
What you're saying, Jerry Lawler, is complete fact. ECW is nothing but low-budgeted, very low-talented wannabes that cannot hold on to someone with the extreme talents of Rob Van Dam.
I love this. I thought this was so genius. What a way to immediately make a top heel at your in your company. You know what I mean? ECW, this guy shows up and proclaims that he's Mr. Monday Night on Raw. Genius. Rob beats up, as Jerry Lawler puts it, that John Bon Jovi wannabe. Very cool to see young Jeff Hardy here. Before his Team Extreme days, before anything, just young, probably 18, 19, 20-year-old Jeff Hardy sitting here.
So, question for the professor. How did we get here that RVD's in WWF? Was he in ECW by this point? Talk to me.
So Rob, I'm just trying to look at my dates here. Rob Van Dam, at this point, the ECW pay-per-view has already happened. He is freshly turned heel at the end of that event and aligned himself with Bill Alfonso and Sabu. Bill Alfonso turns on Taz at that event, joins up with Sabu. Van Dam gets in there as well. Jerry Lawler just says, this is a guy that agrees with me. He thinks ECW is terrible, and I'm going to make him a WWF superstar. And this is the one guy that is a great athlete in ECW. So it's Lawler giving RVD the rub here, pretty much, right?
I like
RVD's
it.
still working at ECW full time. He's not missing any dates here,
right?
But he's getting this WWF heat, right? Something cool that Rob was also doing at this point. Back in the day, a friend of the Counted Out show, Bill Apter, was the king of the magazines, right? The Pro Wrestling Illustrator, the Inside Wrestlings, all that. Rob Van Dam showed up at WCW Monday Nitro, just hanging out backstage, and made sure to get pictures taken to him talking to Vincent Virgil from the NWO. So they were playing off that angle. Will Rob be on Nitro? Will Rob be on Raw? He kept the Mr. Monday Night thing going, which I thought was really, really cool. Just him hanging out backstage.
That's so cool. They picked the perfect guy to align with Lawler here, because it just makes sense. Rob isn't necessarily, an ECW guy in the sense that, you compare it to like Sandman and Sabu and the Dudleys, they are like very over the top extreme. Whereas Rob, sure, he still has that EC vibe to him, but he's not as very extreme as the other guys. So to put him with Jerry Lawler, now that he's turned heel, and he is, amazing in the ring. And this match actually was a really just great example of that he's just so good.
Showcase. They really showcased Rob's arsenal moves in this really well. And Jeff Hardy was the perfect guy for it.
It was a really great way to bring him in. I like the Mr. Monday Night, gimmick to him. Yeah. Everything about this was just a really good way to bring him in. And, just another question, we're like 2 months in between by this point. So we had that debate on Raw was in March, and now we have RVD showing up in May. So what's happening in between those 2 months?
Not much. The ECW is not a weekly fixture on the WWF. They're just kind of popping up here and there. I think like Sabu ran out one time and tried to hit a leg drop on Lawler and missed and went through a table, but they're not out there every week doing big angles. Right. You know what I mean? They're just
are they mentioning ECW? Like, is this continuing, or do they like just put it on the shelf for a while?
I think it's just kind of in and out. Like, it's not a big emphasis on the show. They will mention it from time to time. Okay. I think they kind of promote their pay-per-views a little bit still.
Yeah.
You get your odd Heyman segment here and there. You get maybe an ECW match here and there, but like they weren't a weekly fixture on Raw from what I remember, at least at this time.
And a follow-up, does that hurt the feud at all? Because if you're not continuously going with the ECW stuff, and you put it to the side, and then you bring it back, and then you put it away, because this happened multiple times throughout this feud. As far as the dates are showing me, does that hurt the feud? Did people lose interest? Well, what's going on?
I mean, I think it was just something that WWF fizzled out, and ECW kind of kept the feud going on their end. Because as we keep looking at the lesson plan here, there's not a lot of big moments on Raw anymore involving these feuds. Like the more that we watch this, the fizzle on the Raw side really dwindles down. But the USWA that we're going to get into in a second here, and the ECW side really kept the momentum going on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I like about this too is when they did the invasion angle in 2001, they actually referenced this match, and RVD and Jeff Hardy had a singles match at that pay-per-view. And it was based all around this match, which I thought was pretty cool.
I was just really looking forward to seeing Jeff and RVD because I knew that it was going to be like Jobber Jeff, but still, like just seeing those two names up against each other is like.
No, they had a great match at the WWF versus WCW Invasion pay-per-view in 2001. So if you want some extracurricular work, I would definitely watch that match. It is Superstar Jeff Hardy versus Superstar Rob Van Dam.
Absolutely. I will definitely be checking that. Didn't they have like a ladder match at one point?
They had a ladder match at the SummerSlam the following month, which I thought wasn't my favorite. A lot of people really liked that one. It wasn't my favorite ladder match, but their Invasion match, they really, really tore into each other.
I'll tune into that.
So now we got the feud kind of shifting gears a little bit. Like we just talked about, the WWF focus is kind of dwindling on it. Lawler's still running his mouth here and there. So they've got Jerry Lawler's home promotion, the USWA based out of Memphis, Tennessee, stepping in and filling up the void. You got Chris Candido versus Brian Christopher here. Unfortunately, both these guys have passed away. I didn't really think about that until after watching it.
That's true.
I love me some Chris Candido. Very happy to see some action with him here. It was just a short clip that I sent you here. Paul Heyman just starts, JR's kind of egging Heyman on to shoot here, right? Hey, come on, you're the shooter. Let's go here. And
what about Brian Christopher?
What about him? He's a fine opponent for Chris Candido.
Yep. Come on, Paul. You've scouted this guy. Say what's on your mind, Paul, for once, will you?
Say what's on my mind.
This is a big
You want me to shoot him at it? You want me to ruin Raw again? This guy is Jerry Lawler's son. Brian Christopher, he is the son of Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler never acknowledged him as his own son in Memphis.
Fun little angle here, and it made things really, really personal on the Lawler end now.
Brian Christopher. Professor, ask me what the only other segment that I've seen of Brian Christopher was.
What is the only other segment of Brian Christopher that you have seen?
That awkward 2011 segment during Lawler and Michael Cole when he comes out as
that was bad.
Brian Christopher, and
that was
no one knew who he was.
I felt bad for that angle.
I felt really like looking back on it. I felt bad at the time. I was like, banging it.
Would you believe it if I told you that in the middle of the year 2000 that he was one of the most over guys in the WWF?
I would never believe you, but I could see with
Too Cool and Rikishi, bro. Those guys, let me channel my inner Vince Russo there. Those guys were so over. The Worm, Christopher with his leg drop and his little dances, and just Rikishi. Those guys were. There was a time where they were not quite Rock and Austin level, obviously, but I would say they were number 3 babyface in the company.
Surprisingly, I've seen so much Rikishi, like through YouTube videos and just all different segments with him. Like he's got to be up there with one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Like, he's really, just his like energy to him, his move set in the ring, just always, made me laugh. And just all these good segments with him. We need some more appreciation for Rikishi. I think we gave a lot of appreciation to, Mick Foley and all these other guys and Brian Pillman. I think we need some Rikishi appreciation every now and then.
Maybe we'll have to take a look at, I did it for The Rock.
Oh, no, I don't know if we'll go that far, but we got Rikishi Val Venus that we could check out. We got a few matches.
All right. Maybe the professor will dig into the archive for a little bonus episode at some point. Next up, though, this is the whole reason why I wanted to do this angle. Jerry Lawler invades the ECW arena. My notes here say, Anthony, I just want to hear what you have to say about this.
Like, it was mental. Like, it was it was insane. I didn't even write any notes about this segment because, like, I don't even know how to like write stuff for this. But
so, let me interrupt you. Sorry for a sec. I just want to tell you a little bit of the backstory, which I think is going to make you appreciate this even more.
Okay.
one of the biggest feuds in the history of ECW is Tommy Dreamer versus Raven.
Right.
They have had many, many years of feuds. They tell this amazing backstory where they were friends as children, and they went to the same summer camp that Beulah McKillicuddy went to. And she was like the chubby, ugly girl that had a crush on Tommy, but Tommy didn't really give her the time of day. And then Raven brought her back to play mind games with Dreamer, but they ended up falling in love. But Tommy Dreamer could never beat Raven. And he never pinned Raven for years and years and years. And this was Raven. I believe this was his last match before he went to WCW and ECW. Mm-hmm. And Tommy Dreamer finally got the win over Raven. Okay. And then this happens. Take it away, man.
That's insane.
This is Dreamer's big moment, right?
You're going to give me years of Dreamer and Raven, and boom, Jerry Lawler
comes to ruin the big moment.
That's mental. That is so insane. That makes it even better, I guess. Okay, like, you know, I actually didn't know that Sabu and RVD were together.
Yeah.
So that clarifies that. I just think it was so funny that, like, the lights go off, here comes RVD. The lights go off, here comes Sabu. Lights go off, here's Jerry Lawler in his whole getup and everything. It was just such like a weird visual, but it was so great at the same time. And, you know, you have him on the mic screaming, you have all these guys coming out. It was
the line he cuts. Somebody get me some toilet paper because this place is just full of shit. the crowd heat. They're just I almost thought they were going to jump over the railing and get him.
Oh my goodness. So much happening. Again, one of these like fast paced, just mosh pit type things going on. And it just fits the vibe perfectly with this whole ECW invasion, and now WWF's invading. It was just so strange, but it was so great at the same time. And it, like, this was the moment when I was like, this is like, why don't more people talk about this feud? Because you always hear about the great feuds, like, you know, Rock Austin and Austin Brett and, you know, Hogan's Andre. Like, this is one of the most, like, I just don't hear anyone talking about this. And I guess it's because it wasn't like, you know, with one of those superstar-esque, you know, wrestlers. But I think that's what the beauty of this show is that we get to give these type of feuds a little bit more, you know, like a boost of eyes. You know, I'm sure not a lot of people even remember. I'm sure they remember, but, like, you know, it just doesn't get brought up as much as it should, especially with these type of angles that are happening.
Absolutely, it does. And this is the whole point of this show. And that's why I love doing this show. And I recommend everybody right now, if you are listening to this, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on YouTube, just hit pause for a second and go watch this angle. Jerry Lawler invades. It's on the playlist. It's on the playlist in the description. Jerry Lawler invades the ECW arena. You know, you built up the picture perfect. Lights go out RVD, lights go out Sabu, lights go out Lawler, place goes mental. They take out the entire locker room. They beat up everybody. And, you know, the crowd is like really into it. Like the Gangsters music hits and New Jack and Mustafa come out and the crowd loses their mind.
That was great.
They get laid out and then everybody's just chanting, "We want Taz." And Taz's music hits. And you would have thought that, like, the Lord himself has come back, like the Savior is coming out, you know what I mean? And Taz just walks out looking like a scary motherfucker, and everybody just leaves except for Sabu. Sabu wants to fight Taz. So there is more to this that I did not send you as well, because it doesn't really have much to do with the ECW feud. Immediately after this angle, Taz and Sabu have a match.
Oh,
and Taz chokes out Sabu. Taz beats him. Shane Douglas, who was really awkward during this whole time on commentary, he was the guy that they were kind of like, "What are you doing up there, Shane Douglas?" He's like, "I got no beef with you guys." Like, it's kind of a weird little thing. But Taz called out Shane Douglas after and said, "I can beat you for your TV title in 5 minutes." And he did. And Taz got crowned your new ECW World Television Champion right after this as well.
On the same night, or
the same right after this? He didn't leave the ring. When he came out and cleared the ring of Lawler, he beat Sabu and then beat Shane Douglas.
I love that. Well, I love and I hate that Tommy Dreamer pins Raven for the first time ever. And we get all of this happening after. Oh my goodness.
And that's like a theme, and that's something that Dreamer kind of patterned himself after, because Tommy Dreamer was always Mr. ECW, right? He bled for that company. He was like the raw guy, right? And everybody knew that and respected him. Tommy Dreamer only won the ECW world title one time. He beat actually, and it involves Taz as well. When Taz, did you ever hear about the whole thing with Mike Awesome and Taz and all that stuff?
No.
Okay, let us go on a little bit of a detour here, class, because this is
going to be a long episode, folks.
Yeah, well, we're going to go on. I'll do this one quick because this is really famous and really cool as well. And so basically, Mike Awesome is your ECW World Heavyweight Champion at the time. This is in probably the beginning of April of 2000. Okay, so Taz has gone out of the company. He's debuted at the Royal Rumble January of that year. He's out of the company. Mike Awesome is going to defect to WCW. He is still the ECW World Champion. He's signed a contract. He's leaving. So he comes back to do a shot on a house show in Indianapolis to defend his world title against a mystery opponent. Who comes out but Taz, making his return to ECW. So now you have the ECW World Champion, who is WCW superstar Mike Awesome, versus WWF superstar Taz in an ECW ring. How amazing is that?
That's amazing. That is really cool.
So to fast forward to the point, Taz was your ECW World Champion. They've had him bring the belt out on TV on Monday Night Raw. He fought Triple H, WWF World Champion, against ECW World Champion on SmackDown the following week. They built up to a match against Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer beats Taz to become your ECW World Champion. Seconds later, Just Incredible runs out, lays out Dreamer, challenges him to a match for the belt, and beats Dreamer for the belt.
No way.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Yeah. Come on.
Tommy Dreamer is the guy that can never catch a break.
You just told me so much in that 1 minute.
Yeah.
Taz versus Triple H.
We will have to I'll have to send you some more clips then.
Please,
the playlist.
Please do
some more clips.
Oh my god. You can't give me all this information. Then we got to move on to the next segment here. Oh my god. But we do have to. But damn. Wow.
Well, and unfortunately, a lot of this stuff is just quick to go through now. So that's why I really wanted to put a lot of attention on what I think was the best part of the whole angle.
No, definitely.
Now it's just a bunch of matches here. You got Rob Van Dam versus Flash Funk. Dreamer and Heyman want revenge after this angle, so like they're out there trying to jump on them and stuff. This was a great match. So these guys have fought before in ECW when Flash Funk was Too Cold Scorpio, who's a former ECW television champion, tag team champion as well. You get the split-legged moonsault, which gets a what a maneuver from Vince McMahon, which I just love. And then you got Heyman jumps Lawler and gets beat down until Dreamer comes and saves them. I thought this was a really good angle.
Jerry the King Lawler. Boy, has he ever happened. Oh no, this is trouble. Look out! Look out! Holly right in front of his throw down. And look at Jerry the King Lawler going to. Oh no! Tommy Dreamer going behind him. Look at this. All four men going out. Lawler is kicking Paulie. Tommy Dreamer's trying to save Paulie dangerously. We've got a hell of a melee here.
Yeah, good match. I like that we saw a lot of Flash Funk in this whole build. Because I'd never seen anything of him before, so it was cool to throw some in here. Even a Chris Candido match. Never saw anything of his, so
he's
got a lot of stuff in
underrated.
here.
Both those guys are both fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Now we're going to Shotgun Saturday Night. Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lawler versus the Headbangers. Rob's on Shotgun now. Is the WWF losing interest in this angle? We did kind of cover that already. I do think so. Brian Pillman on commentary, former honor roll.
Good call. Here. Oh my! I was so happy to hear that voice.
and also, I don't know if you noticed this, but friend of the show Jimmy Corderas was the referee for this match as well.
Oh, look at that!
Pillman just ripped ECW apart until Jim Ross goes, "Didn't I see you on an ECW program before?" And Pillman just
we'll get back to that one.
Yeah. Tell me if I'm wrong on this though, but tell me somebody who throws better punches than Jerry Lawler in the business.
He throws some great ones. I really put some focus into that in the match versus Dreamer. Just his punches are just so like they're so strange because they look very good, but they look like little cat punches at the same time, but strong cat punches, which is so good. But I don't know. This match sucked. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my notes on this are the ECW jokes are really getting repetitive now.
Yeah.
We get it. They only draw 100 fans. We get it. They work in a bingo hall. Like there's a certain level where you're just hurting everybody by making those comments over and over and over again, right?
Right.
I thought Jim Ross was really good here, kind of like singing ECW's praises a little bit.
A lot of folks don't realize what ECW is. ECW stands for Extreme Championship Wrestling. They're a small regional wrestling organization based in Philadelphia,
Well, that's being
Pennsylvania.
magnanimous. They operate out of a bingo hall, for Christ's sake.
And most of the ECW arena bouts are in the northeastern part of these here United States.
Yeah, standing room only of about 118 people.
I saw you on the ECW program once upon a time. We'll get into that later.
I think Pillman was great on commentary here either. He had that really cheesy line, Tommy Dreamer must be dreaming if he thinks he can be in a WWF ring. Like Dreamer runs in for the DQ finish. I just say next on this one.
Yeah, move right on from this one. Even the match, just like the headbangers were just in complete control against RVD the entire time. It's like, come on. You have RVD on the card and you're giving me headbangers. Like, sure, the headbangers, like they have a really the stage dive. I like that a lot. But
that's a great move.
RVD, man, come on. How are you losing interest already, Vince?
I mean, it's attention span. They're not WWF superstars. Maybe it's because Tommy Dreamer can't get past the security guard, but we'll get to that in a second. Sabu versus Flash Funk is next. I thought Jim Ross was so good in this match, asking all the right questions to Paul Heyman to get his guys over. I also think that there's something really special about Sabu in 1997. You've never seen anything like him before, right?
Nope, never have. And actually, I wanted to bring up in the trio of matches that we got in, the Flash Funk match and the Headbangers, this Sabu and Flash Funk easily, and maybe even compare it to some of the other matches that we've seen, easily best stuff that I've seen. Taking into account the table spot that it took him 3 tries. Like just some of the moves that he was doing, like leaping on the outside of the ring and doing a Hurricane Rana. Even Flash Funk had a really great, I compare it to like Montez Ford when he does that frog splash, but he turns midair. I never know like what to call it, but he got some air on that one.
Big moonsault he did there, right?
Yeah, that too, so great. Like this had to have been one of my favorite matches of this whole feud.
Things get out of hand sometimes with your ECW performance.
But that's the way Raw is for. This is not a walk through the park. This is not a picnic. This is what it's supposed to be.
Oh, no. Oh. And
See, those aren't pre-cut tables like you'll see elsewhere.
it may be academic, but both men have been counted out.
He's going to bust that table, I promise you. He's going to bust it if it kills him.
I think it killed him.
So what?
If not,
That's extreme. That's hardcore. That's why we do pay-per-views. We're too extreme for Monday night. We're too extreme for Raw. I warned you about this. You should listen to me sometime.
I find that the match was made a lot better without having the heel commentator burying ECW the whole time as well.
I honestly tuned out of the commentary because of just how great these guys were doing. So even if they did bury ECW, you're right. I think it would have hurt a lot more because like then it's like, Sabu's doing all this great stuff, but the commentary is burying it to begin with. So why should I care? But
exactly right. You mentioned the table doesn't break. Sabu does not care. Paul Heyman with that line, he will die trying to go through that table. He'll break it. And then Sabu just runs through the crowd and Vince McMahon's clearly had enough and throws to the next segment. You can just tell Vince, okay, we're done here. So the last thing here we're going to get into before we get to the match is I don't even know where I found this from, but it's basically the USWA. It's all of the compilation of some stuff that their programming was doing to continue their ECW feud here. I'm not going to run through the whole thing because it was an hour, But a couple points that I really thought about this. I really like this version of Jerry Lawler a lot better.
Yeah.
I thought his promos were a lot better here. He wasn't so repetitive because he was a badass in Memphis, right? I really liked the angle where Tommy Dreamer showed up in the studio and destroy the studio. What I did not like was before that. Did you watch this angle at all?
I like skimmed around, so I know what happened, but I didn't know.
Tommy
like,
Dreamer, why can't you get away from security guards? These guys in Memphis, it literally looked like me and you trying to hold him back. And like they were like, there was one in particular where it was actually the Cat, if you remember her, Stacey Carter.
Oh,
from
okay.
WWF back. Yeah. She was doing a backstage interview with Jerry Lawler after Dreamer tried to run out in his match. And Lawler was in the dressing room with this old security guy. And Dreamer is down the hall being like, I'm coming for you, Jerry Lawler. And like, basically me and you held him back and put him in another room.
Hey, I want to get a word about...
Okay, well, come on. If he's out here, let him come out here. Yeah, I'm right here. Well, come on.
Oh, Lance? Oh. We need some help, Lance, back here. Can you get some security back here?
Tonight, I swear to you, at 2 o'clock, how many of you people are going to make you see Jerry Lawler drown? Come on, Tommy. In his own pool of blood. I'm telling you now. Get him out of here.
Like Tommy Dreamer, you got it low, like how to get away. Watch The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. That's how you get away from people. Like these little tiny people, Paul Heyman, me and you, we should not be holding Tommy Dreamer back. It just drove me absolutely insane. Like it took me right out of Tommy Dreamer. I wanted to love you so much more in this Tommy Dreamer, but I just couldn't. Like
Tyler's rooting for Jerry in this next match, by the way.
Yeah, it just pissed me right off, man. But this was some cool stuff to skim through in the playlist. You saw some house show footage of Jerry Lawler and Brian Christopher against RVD and Sabu. You got a lot of good promos here. Taz cut a really good promo. Tommy Dreamer cut a great promo. Over
I actually, that was one of the promos that I did watch, was the Tommy Dreamer one. And like, I never really heard him speak before, but like he cut it really good, just driving into Jerry Lawler. I thought it was good, and to see Joey Styles next to him was just a treat in itself.
Absolutely. So that's it for the lesson plan here. Do you have any final comments before I turn the classroom over for you to present?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why do they keep in story? And I guess I'm gonna again break away from a good story here, but why keep letting ECW into the building? You know what I mean? Like if they're invading, you could just not let them in.
Yeah.
Why did they ever like explain that? Were they buying tickets or whatever it may be? But
I think, because they were technically invited most of the time. Like Lawler invited them to show up. They did. Heyman, when he was on commentary with Vince, like you would think that they had to invite him. And then the times that they did show up, a lot of it was running in throughout the crowd on the times that they didn't promote their segments. So it would just seem like Vince was inviting them. When RVD was on, like he was with Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, that was an invitation, right?
I just think that they were just invited guests the whole time.
All right,
which kind of takes away from their edge a little bit. If you think
that is very true. I would have liked to have seen like a little bit more of like a push for ECW to like kind of break through the invitation or whatever. And I also would have liked to seen a little interaction between, WWE, I keep saying WWE, WWF and ECW guys, just a little bit. I think in itself, and I'll, before I give this classroom grading for the feud, in itself, I would say that up until like the trio of matches that you got towards the end, this was a phenomenal feud. Like there was so much great stuff, really, because of that, that one episode of Raw that just everyone came out. Gotta be just some of the best stuff that I've seen on a Monday Night Raw before. So just everything just worked so well. You had all these ECW guys being presented so well. RVD coming in and being with Jerry Lawler worked. Paul Heyman on the mic was superb. I think the only thing that I could genuinely compare this to was the NXT invasion 2 years ago when, you know, everyone was stuck in Saudi Arabia. So NXT came in and, you know, really took over SmackDown. Of course, that's, you know, different comparisons. Both were great, but, you know, comparing them differently. But what I liked about the NXT thing was that you saw that interaction with the WWE guys. And I get that that wasn't necessarily the story here, and that it wasn't ECW versus WWF. It was ECW versus Jerry Lawler. But I still think there was room for that. You know, like I mentioned before, seeing, you know, what if you had like Raven come out and kind of stalk the Farouk Undertaker match, or just see some matches in between. You know, I think that's my only gripe with it, and that would have made it a little bit more for me. But like I said, everything up until like the later part of that feud was great. Some of the matches took me out. The repetition of just ECW getting shitted on again, like I didn't really need all of that. But I will go ahead and I'll give the feud itself, with all of the repetition on the matches not being as great, I'm going to give it a B+, because
that's a factor I am too.
It's like, there's nothing else that you could compare like this Raw or any of these promos or just any of this feud period to. And I think that's just what makes it so great. It just makes you want to see something like this in 2021. And I think that's the only thing. And we won't get into like, you know, shitting on modern wrestling, because we can go on for hours. We actually did do that before on a past episode of the Titantron with Tyler Wolf and Vince Russo. We talked about the problems with modern wrestling. Go check that out. But I will say that just imagine if something happened like this, like I mentioned, GCW in 2021. I think that is the one thing that could really get me involved in, you know, like a big angle, bringing back WWE to like, you know, its fullest potential, I guess you can call it that. I would love to see something like this. And the fact that we probably will never get it is just heartbreaking. And even with, you know, like, I won't go too much into it, but like, you know, I think something like this is what is really missing in wrestling right now. You know, even just like a partnership, you know, I had no idea WWF and ECW were partners.
You know, you mentioned like how it could give WWE that edge back again. That's what happened here. Where do you think the Attitude Era really came from?
Exactly.
Vince was looking at ECW and being like, these guys are onto something. I'm going to take all their guys and I'm going to start swearing. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what he did. So,
yeah, I mean, it was just such a great way to bring WWF, which was, you know, I don't know a lot of the history, but I'm sure was not doing well during the New Gen era, as far as viewership and interest overall. This was a great way to kind of bring that edge back in a time in wrestling that was very edgy, with the NWO and ECW rising. Solid B+ overall for this feud. And I was really looking forward to seeing Jerry Lawler get the shit kicked out of him in this match. And yeah, no further questions. Let's get into the match.
Disney doesn't like the Insane Clown Posse. You know what? Censorship sucks. If you don't like their music, don't buy the CD. If you don't like ECW, just change the channel. You have the right to choose. You like ECW? Join us on pay-per-view this Sunday night, Hardcore Heaven 97.
Okay, well, that is going to take us to August the 17th, 1997, the War Memorial Auditorium in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We're at the Hardcore Heaven 1997 event. Jerry the King Lawler versus Tommy Dreamer. Mr. Anthony, the Prodigy, the class is yours.
Thank you very much. I will take the class and I will review this mental match. I keep saying the word mental, but there's nothing else that I could compare this feud and this match to. But I will start with a negative comment, because for me, I don't know how you were thinking about this, but the pre-match promo, I didn't buy into it.
No, come on.
Well, you know what? I will say I liked Lawler plugging, what was it? Ground Zero was the pay-per-view. Yeah. I like that. I didn't like, you know, and I talked to the Undertaker and he said that you should give him a tombstone.
So funny.
Spirit. And that's when the Undertaker told me, King, if you really want Tommy Dreamer to rest in peace, give him one of those tombstone pile drivers. That's right. And then Bret the Hitman Hart told me he would be honored if I would finish off Tommy Dreamer with the sharpshooter, and I just may do that. But you know what was the best of all? When Stone Cold Steve Austin called me on the telephone, and he said, King, I want you to open the biggest can of whoop ass that Fort Lauderdale has ever seen. And I said, Stone Cold, just for you, that's what I'm gonna do.
It's so funny because, like, if you know Jerry Lawler, you know, we've already seen it in this angle. Nobody likes him in the W. Like, this is so clearly bullshit.
That's
and
true.
So clear. Like, I just thought it was so funny, and he was just so confident about it. Like, I
think it was just
opposite of you, man.
I think it's just at this point I was tired of like the ECW, you know, being shoved down our throats, like shitting on ECW. So like this was just not cringe, because cringe is not a good word to use here, but just like it's just meh, you know. I wasn't really feeling it too much. But you get right into this match and we just go right into it hot and heavy. What did Dreamer hit Lawler with that made him go over the top rope? Was it like a tin?
Yeah, it looked like a little like frying pan or tin or something.
Yeah, because it was making a loud
noise though.
Yeah,
great noise it made.
Welcome to ECW, Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah, just knocking him out of the ring. That was a really, and I gotta say, like Lawler's selling in this entire match just made Dreamer look like a madman. You know, the visuals with the blood and when he was getting choked out with the belt.
I love that.
So much good stuff.
By the way, what kind of balls did Jerry Lawler have on him for fighting in the crowd in an ECW event? Man, I don't know if you could pay me to do that with the heat that he had, right? If this was in Philadelphia, I think he might have got like killed. But in Florida, it was a little bit tamer of an ECW country, I guess.
That's true. That is very true. But yeah, you know, I've been saying it since the start. Just such a different vibe than anything we had seen up until this point. Fighting in the crowd, sure, we saw that in Austin and Hart, but this is so much different.
You're fighting in the crowd covered in blood as you're being choked with a belt, and everybody around you's going, ECW. I just thought that was maybe my favorite part of the whole match, in all honesty.
Not only that, but I put in my notes because I wanted to make sure I brought this up. How many items of food were used in this crowd?
How pissed off would you be if you're Jerry Lawler and you got hit in the face with a dirty hamburger? I would have been so mad, like mustard and ketchup all over him. I would have been pissed off for real.
Hamburger. Jerry Lawler has run down ECW since the day he crashed the ECW arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and tonight he's gonna pay.
Like, I love when he puts the I think he puts like the popcorn thing, like it either puts it on his head and punches him, or he like puts it next to his head and punches him, and just the popcorn goes all over the place. It was like, sure, it was a little hokey with the food, like, you know, it turns into a food fight, whatever, but at the same time, Dreamer made it look so brutal. You know, like who else could make fighting with food look extreme than an ECW guy? You know what I mean? So I really like the whole exchange was really great. I already mentioned Lawler sells like a pro, but also Tommy sells like a pro for a lot of these moves. And what I thought was really interesting, and I don't know if you caught this, but for me, it was almost like Lawler's use of the weapons was like surprisingly very creative, because you had Dreamer that would use the weapons not really in like a simple way, but like, you know, how we would expect them to be used. Whereas Lawler, he kind of used them in ways that either we haven't seen or that you wouldn't normally see. Like, for instance, when Dreamer hits him with the belt. And I like that these are all callbacks, that whatever Dreamer does, Lawler does. Instead of Dreamer, you know, hits him with the belt, Lawler hits him with the buckle of the belt, which I thought was a really just cool nod. You know, you never really see him hitting the buckle. It's always the whip. And even like the use of the steel chair in the ring, you know, like he throws him onto the chair, he puts it up against the ropes and he throws him in.
And now Tommy gets hammered by the steel. King drives Dreamer face first into that chair.
I don't know if it took away from like the actual story of the match, because, you know, in this case, Lawler's completely away from extreme wrestling. Like he hates it, but here he is doing all these creative spots with the weapons. Like in story, it doesn't make sense, but like,
I guess he kind of threw back to that in the USWA thing as well. Cause he did cut a promo saying, we invented hardcore wrestling up here. I can show you how to do it.
Okay.
There is another little angle that I didn't tell you. I couldn't find a clip for it, but Jim Cornette actually invaded the ECW arena as well.
No way.
And I don't know much about it. I've never gotten the chance to see the clip, but all I know is as a shoot, Jerry Lawler hit Tommy Dreamer in the balls with a kendo stick, and Dreamer had to go to the hospital and get like the needles like and drained. They swelled up so big.
Oh
yeah, Dreamer was like out unconscious. It was pretty nasty. So yeah, sorry, I digressed there, but
yeah, no problem. But yeah, I don't know if you like caught that, but like I kind of saw like it was almost like an anything you can do, I can do better.
Yeah.
I like that little, just it's like the little things in this match, which I think made it really good. It slowed down after like the whole, you know, Lawler gets his weapon spots in, everything in the ring. Once we get to just like solely in the ring, that's when I kind of started coming out of this match a little bit, because it was just, you know, Lawler did a good job in like keeping the fans invested. I will give him that, you know, using the t-shirt, you know, pulling his pants down, wiping. That was all good stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
So he did a good job in keeping the fans into it. I love the strap down spot where he pulls the strap down and just flops onto the canvas.
Yeah.
Such good stuff.
Yeah, Lawler's so good.
But everything just up until this point was just, or I should say from the point on, was just like slow. I don't know. I wasn't really as invested, but I will say, like I mentioned, Lawler does a good job in keeping the interest in the match.
I'm agreeing with you. I found that the longer this went, I was really into the first half of this match.
Yeah.
First maybe 5 to 8 minutes, the crowd brawling, Dreamer in control. I did like when Lawler took over, but it's the second half of the match where I think we're going to get into here.
However, okay. First of all, like, I don't even know where to start on this because it's just so. Anyway, let's just jump right in. Rick Rude comes out.
Tommy and Jerry the King. Rick Rude. Rick Rude, the sellout that he is.
Haven't seen Rick Rude this entire feud.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Lights go out again. Jake Roberts, the Snake, comes out.
That's Jake the Snake Roberts. Even Lawler looks surprised.
Hits Dreamer, then hits Lawler, then leaves. Okay. Still weird, but the match is still going. Lights go out a third time. Sonny comes out.
That's Sonny. She just sprayed Tommy in the eyes with hairspray. I've got Sonny.
Which I guess makes sense because it's Beulah and whatever. And then Dreamer wins.
Yeah. This killed me. Oh my God.
Please explain.
I think the only people like the light spot, it worked great when Lawler invaded ECW. It flopped here.
That's what I actually wanted to mention, was that I cannot believe that they went from lights turning off at I forget what the name of the show was.
WrestlePalooza.
Right. Yes. I can't believe we went from lights turning off to Sabu and RVD coming out to now lights turning off, Rick Rude, Jake Roberts, and Sonny coming out.
So I know Rick Rude was in ECW at this time.
Was he?
But I don't know what he was doing. He was feuding with Shane Douglas for a lot of it. So I don't know why he would be out here.
Right.
Jake Roberts made absolutely no sense because him and Lawler have been feuding for a year, like 7 months in the WWF. Like Lawler was calling him a drunk, said that his best tag team partners were Jim Beam and Jack Daniels. They had a really intense rivalry in the WWF. So I was really pissed when he laid out Dreamer. Then I'm like, okay, at least he laid out Lawler. I thought Jake looked really good here. Like I liked his little talking to the camera thing after he kind of made sense of it all. Yeah. Sonny is out so you can get the cat fight spot. Sonny was also doing shots in ECW at this point as well. Or shortly after this with Candino as part of the triple threat. But I just it was so overkill. It was so lackluster. And by the time that the lights went out the third time, you could hear the crowd moan. Like it wasn't excitement. It was just like, oh, yeah, this is stupid. This is stupid. And then you got your cat fight with Sonny, and the finish kind of came from out of nowhere. And I just thought this killed the match for me.
I guess if I was watching during the time, maybe I could get a little bit more invested in that. I would know what the stories were going on, but because I didn't know that Jake and Jerry had a feud going on. But it's just so strange to see Jake Roberts just in ECW. I guess it's a cool visual.
Yeah.
And I kind of understand why he went for Dreamer first, because it's like a swerve, like WWF versus ECW again, and then Lawler thinks that he's on his side, but he lays out Lawler. But if that's not the finish of the match, then who cares? Why is Sonny number 3? Usually the third one is your biggest surprise. Sonny does nothing to contribute to the match here.
Where's everybody else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rob Van Dam fought on this card. He was in the third match on the card against Al Snow. Who else?
Sabu
was in the main event for the world title, so I get why he wouldn't have come out. Where's RVD here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
I just think that I have two.
I would have liked to see Brian Christopher. At least that would make sense
to have Brian Christopher. Anybody, right?
Yeah.
The guys they chosen make sense. And my two takeaways from this match are: the first one is this match started the way it should be, right? But the ending was just we got to see Dreamer not get his revenge. He got a bullshit win.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Dreamer should have beat the shit out of Lawler at the beginning. Lawler gets the heat in the middle. Dreamer should have made the comeback. If they wanted to have RVD run out and eat a DDT, so Dreamer really gets the raw ECW, that's fantastic. To me, the whole thing, this whole feud reminds me of the match for my take on it. It started out amazing and it dragged out and fizzled at the end. And that's how I rate this whole feud.
This felt like WWF trying to book the WrestlePalooza finish.
Yeah.
And that they wanted to get some surprises in there. So they were like, oh, Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts. Why bring Jake out if he's had nothing to do with ECW in its entirety? It took so much out of this match that if I could just give the rating, honestly, it's closer to a C to a C.
That's where I put it.
To a C minus even, because this took a lot out of me. And it sucks because the beginning of the match was so good. The fighting in the crowd, Jerry doing a lot of great stuff. But then the finish was way too long and it entirely just did not work whatsoever. And that took so much out of me. So although the feud was great,
18 minutes and 57 seconds they went.
You could have cut 3 minutes and had a 15-minute match right there.
Yeah.
The whole feud was great up until those last few matches. B to a B plus, sure. But this isn't something that could be saved by, the beginning of the match being great, whereas the feud could be saved by the beginning of the feud being great. This is completely just almost like shitting on this feud. You're going to throw in Jake Roberts and Rick Rude for no reason, and you're not going to give Dreamer like that definitive win. I couldn't get into it. I C minus.
Yeah, I'm with you. So that takes us to the honor roll now.
There we are.
And our honor roll, man, I had my honor roll all locked in until we started this show, and now I've changed it on the fly.
No way. Another on the fly booking?
Yeah, my original honor roll person for this was Taz.
Okay.
I thought Taz would really shine during this whole thing.
Yeah.
But after watching it and talking to it with you, the real superstars of this is the security that held Tommy Dreamer back. The Tommy Dreamer and the security, you're going on the honor roll 1,000%. It is the only time in professional wrestling that security guards have done their job and they need to be honored for it. So Tommy Dreamer being held back from every single security guard, Paul Heyman included. You're going on the honor roll this week. Congratulations.
That's so great. That was a good on the fly change. I will give you that one.
When we got in the middle, when I got all fired up in the middle of the show, I had to change it. I'm sorry, Taz. Your promo work was fantastic, and you really were an ass-kicking machine. There will be a spot on honor roll for you one day, but it is not today. It is the security that held Tommy Dreamer back. Congratulations.
So great. Oh, so great stuff.
Well, that's it, man. That's gonna put a bow on this week's show.
Yes, sir. Great show. This was a good feud to relive. I will say, can't believe I didn't know. I knew a little bit about it. Obviously, I knew of that Raw, but I never saw it in its entirety. And I thought it was just so much better when I watched all these segments together. But like I said it before, and I'll say it again, I cannot believe that this feud doesn't get talked about more than it should. And I hope that this episode, to our classmates, hopefully this draws a little buzz to this feud because it deserves it. Besides, Jake Roberts and stuff, but that's another story.
I hope people really take a look back at this and remember it fondly because, it didn't hold up as much as I remembered it doing, but the first half of this especially, I was really happy with. So even if you just go back and watch the first half of this rivalry, it's really magical stuff.
Absolutely.
And we're going to keep our ECW theme kind of alive next week.
Okay.
That's weird, but how are we going to do that when we're not going to talk about ECW? When our show airs next week, it will be October the 17th of 2021.
Right.
We are going to talk about a match that very famously happened in Madison Square Garden on October the 17th of 1983. A match in which ECW stars Tommy Dreamer, Bubba Ray Dudley, and Mick Foley were in attendance for.
Oh.
And we are going all the way back to watch and talk about the legendary rivalry of Jimmy Superfly Snuka against Don Morocco, leading up into the infamous steel cage match where Snuka does the dive.
Wow. First time that I'm ever going to see this. I didn't even know these guys had a feud. I thought it was just a match.
Yeah, no, they had a big rivalry, and it led with that famous moment of Snuka on top of the cage. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to look at all the promos leading up to it, the angle leading up to it, the aftermath. Was this the first time Snuka jumped off the top of a cage? Well, you'll find out next week.
Wow. What a cliffhanger.
Right?
So many cliffhangers on this episode. You told me Taz faces Triple H. Now you're telling me Snuka may have jumped off the cage again. God damn it, Professor.
That's what we're here to do. We're here to leave you wanting more.
Oh, very true.
Do you have any final words you want to say before we sign off this week?
Folks, we have a huge October ahead of us. Make sure you stay tuned for these episodes. We've got a lot of stuff planned. I know the Professor has a lot of different lesson plans on the horizon that I'm looking forward to learning about. And we're having some fun here. Make sure you subscribe if you're watching on YouTube and seeing our beautiful faces. If you're not, make sure you give us a good review on Apple Podcasts because we definitely need those. Just listen to us, man. Get us into your ears some way, somehow, because we hope that we can entertain you in the hour or hour and a half that we are on. in the classroom. So thank you for tuning in.
I guarantee you that Tommy Dreamer's security guards are not holding you back from listening to our show. So you listen to us, all right? And on that note, I think the only thing left to say is that class has been dismissed.